Welcome to the South Louisiana Podcast, episode number 8. Today I've got my friend Stephanie Weeks on. She is a mortgage lender down here in South Louisiana with me. She's licensed in a few other states though as well, and we'll talk about that as we get into the podcast. But hey guys, how about some free grant money? What if you could get some grant money to put towards your down payment on a house that you're buying? There's a couple different different professions that Stephanie says is able to get grant money. Okay, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about a few different loans, some options that we have nowadays, and then we're also going to talk about Stephanie's story. Stephanie's got a fantastic story. She actually dealt with cancer in the past, and she's got all kinds of stories, and we're going to talk about that too in this podcast as well. But that's pretty much it. Let's get right into the podcast. So Stephanie, if you would just introduce yourself and give us maybe just a brief life story, who you really are and who we're talking to today.
Okay, so Stephanie Weeks, mortgage lender in a bunch of states, and been doing this for almost 25 years. And I'll actually be turning 45 tomorrow. I'm not sure when this will air, but turning 45
probably about a week or
tomorrow.
So she's 45.
45. And have a daughter that is grown and now married, and been with my husband for almost like 28 years or something like that. Been a very long time. And I have my little monster, Roni Grace, down here, who's usually very well mannered and is not being very well mannered today. Here she is. She's not listening. She's not being still. She's usually very good. You gotta be good, little sweet baby. And I don't know. I guess that might be it. And a cancer survivor, of course, as well.
What kind of cancer?
Breast cancer.
Breast cancer. And
yes.
So how long ago was that?
That was a little over 2 years ago.
Okay. And obviously that's a big, turn of events. God kind of throws stuff on us sometimes.
Yes.
I want to hear a little bit about this story. We don't have to dive too deep into it, but I guess maybe there's people who are listening who either just got diagnosed or are dealing with cancer right now. I'd love to know if what you kind of did to overcome it. Did you just do like traditional like chemo, radiation, etc., or what kind of I guess therapies did you use whenever you were dealing with it?
I did a little bit of everything. I think I did probably 15 different modalities probably.
Oh my gosh.
So the funniest part about it is that for probably 15 years before being diagnosed, I studied cancer research, cancer cures, and different modalities of cancer for fun.
Did you have
Because I found it really interesting.
Did you have any family members that were diagnosed before you were, and is that why you were interested, or what?
Well, I did. My mom had breast cancer as well, but actually I was studying everything years before she even had breast cancer also. And she is still cancer-free, always knock on wood, of course, but it's been maybe 12 or 13 years, something like that. And she did not have chemo, and she did not have radiation. We did, she did have a double mastectomy, put her on like her super alkaline diet, did a bunch of different things like high dose vitamin C, all kind of supplements, things like that. And she was able to get rid of it, which was
nice.
Amazing.
What's an alkaline diet? How do you do one of those?
Basically, if you want to be super simple, just eating tons of things super high in pH, like vegetables and fruits.
Vegetables and fruits. So no meat. So vegetables.
But I wouldn't say no meat necessarily, but it's just not much meat.
And the high pH water as well, or?
Yes, she did do that as well. She also did aloe vera water. Also was one of the several things for sure. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I've just used that for sunburns in the past. Yeah? Aloe vera. Yeah, okay. Definitely works.
Yeah, and so it was just kind of wild because you never want that to happen to you or anyone else actually. And so to have it happen to me and have been studying it for so many years, it was kind of insane. And so I did just so many different things. I did, like I said, similar to her, I did high dose vitamin C. I was already a super clean eater. I was already an exerciser. The crazy thing is that probably 100 people said, when they found out, oh my God, you're the healthiest person I know. And so that kind of made me sad because then some people would follow up with, oh my God, then we're all doomed. And like, I don't want it to be that way. And so I think part of that lesson would be that even if you do everything completely right, if you work too much, too hard, and let stress overtake your life, by being responsible for like too many people and stuff like that, then I think it can still kind of, it lets it creep in. It lets it stick, if you will, because we all have cancer cells in our body. It's just, as our immune system, is it strong enough? Is it prepared enough to fight off and kind of just move those along?
I do know
there's
definitely a link between stress and immune system function. The more stressed you are, the lower your immune system functions.
Yes.
And I've heard a couple smart people, doctors, talk about the impact stress has. So that's interesting. Were you working like a ton whenever you were diagnosed, or more than usual, or was it just maybe some life events that had happened that caused you to get stressed? Or
well, I think it's, for most people, it's stress and inflammation. I didn't really have the inflammation part, but well, you know, me being a mortgage lender is very, very stressful. It is 24/7. Sometimes feels like never fast enough, never good enough, you know, things like that. And, you know, never an uninterrupted vacation. And people need numbers, they need accurate numbers, they need good numbers, they need letters faster than the other people, answers faster than the other people who are putting in bids, things like that. So there was about 18 years of that at the time. And then, of course, being a wife and being a mother and, you know, running a business and being responsible for, you know, employees and responsible for other family members, things like that. And then that coupled with, it was, then 2020 happened, and I was diagnosed January of 2021. And in that year, you know, being a business owner of 2020, dealing with 2020 like everyone else did, having to move everyone from an office to be fully functioning remote, like instantly. And then we had a big boom in business as well. So then you're doing all those things on top of the booming business at the same time. And so, you know, it kind of was basically like the perfect storm, possibly, you know, but I truly believe that it was, I have two theories. One was the stress, obviously. I think that absolutely has something to do with it. But also another thing is that I would always put my cell phone in my bra.
I would like to interrupt today's show to say that if you are looking to make a move to South Louisiana, or if you're down here with us and you're looking to sell a house, whether it's in the next week or the next few months, maybe in the next year or two, whatever it happens to be, guys, we've got your back with a smooth move to South Louisiana or with a smooth home selling process. You can give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, or even schedule a Zoom call with us. All of our contact info is in the description and in the pinned comments below. All right, back to the video.
And for years. And when I met with one of my doctors, who's been my doctor for many, many years, and she knows how I am and how anal I am and how I am about health and nutrition and, you know, all these things. And I'm sitting there and I'm just bawling, crying in her office saying, does not make sense. I do everything right, like everything right when it comes to this stuff. And so we did some different testing. I can't remember the words that she said, but basically, like, it wasn't like, gosh, I really wish I could remember the words she said, but it wasn't something having to do with my function or something like that. It was something, you know, external. And she proceeded to tell me that she travels all over the place for different seminars and things like that because she's an internist. And two different doctors presented far away in different countries with 15-year-old girls who had aggressive breast cancer, which is like very, 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 very rare. And they had been putting their phone in their bras. And in that appointment, I did this. Boop. And guess where the tumor was? Very close to the skin, exactly where my cell phone always was.
Wow.
So I think that had a lot to do with it, and maybe over the years, being able to, you know, have the immune system fight what was trying to, you know, kind of grab hold, if you will. And then maybe it was just a culmination of a perfect storm, and I'm probably forgetting other things, you know, that happened within that time frame. I mean, 2020, I had soon to be graduating, high school student, and you're doing, senior year stuff, and you're supposed to be in all these places, and you can't really go anywhere. And so it was just really a lot of different things. But those are my two theories, and I think they're probably both intertwined, actually.
Yeah.
Because you can outdo your genetics, by the way. I don't like when people say, oh, you can, well, it's genetics. Well, it is, but it's not, because epigenetics has been around since the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can, there's a whole nother, we could talk about that for hours, but your genetic predisposition does not absolutely guarantee that you're going to get sick. And so you could be positive for the gene, as one example, and never get it.
You turn it off. You can turn off and on genes like light switches.
You could not have the gene and then get it, and so it's also kind of just wild is that my mom, my sister, myself, and my child are all positive for the BRCA2 gene. That's like, shouldn't you skip around? I mean, that's like playing Russian roulette and we all just got shot.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't it supposed to shouldn't it be one of us or something?
I heard a doctor say one time that the genes that predispose you to these diseases or whatever are kind of like someone having a gun pointed at you, but your lifestyle is what actually pulls the trigger.
The environment. I always say
your environment and lifestyle. We've also got poison in our food nowadays, so that would be more environment. Maybe, I don't know if you consider that lifestyle.
Well, I don't mean environment necessarily, the outside environment. Of course, that is a contributor factor, but I mean more the environment of your body, the environment that your body is in.
Right. So you would say you'd want to be more, you would want to live in an alkaline environment, right? Because your body would be more alkaline. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So I used to be I'm serious, you can ask Natalie. I used to put my phone in airplane mode anytime it was in my pocket, and I would carry it around. If it was off airplane mode, I'd have it far away from my body. I used to never answer the phone with the phone up to my ear. I'd have it on speaker, and people thought I was crazy. And I've actually kind of started slacking off a little bit. I'll keep it in my pocket, off of airplane mode, and I'll talk on the phone, especially if I'm in public. But I don't know. I'm kind of, I really do believe in it because it's radiation, right? And, radiation definitely causes cancer. I mean, you can look at the, the atomic bombs, and maybe that's a different form of radiation, and maybe that is a little bit worse, but I don't know. I think it's a real thing that people have to look out for, and unfortunately, we haven't really had these phones for a very long time. We've only had them since when, 2000?
I don't even know.
Something like that. So early 2000s at least, or maybe late 1990s, we've had these phones, and who knows how bad it actually is to hold it up to your ear and stuff like that. So it's something we'll have to find out in the future, but I think it's better to be safe than sorry.
Exactly.
And I bet you'd agree.
Yeah, just take precautions when you can, where you can. Don't be, we can't be psychotic about it. I mean, we just can't. We have to function in life, but just take precautions where you can.
Cool. So did you have, I don't know if you had a specific doctor that helps you with these other different therapies, or if this was all on your own, reading books, maybe watching YouTube videos, doing your own research, or was there someone who kind of introduced you to a lot of these things that you've done?
Well, it's actually a combination of a lot of different things. It's not really doctors, actually. It's more of, and it wasn't even YouTube either. It was a lot of different books on health, nutrition, science, neurofeedback, epigenetics. I love Bruce Lipton. Biology of Belief is one of my favorite books.
He's awesome.
Just a lot of books and a lot of documentaries as well. And even just a lot of medical, I don't know what they call them officially, but medical papers, when the doctors actually put things out in medical journals. And I used to subscribe to Orthomolecular Medicine magazine and Nature magazine, and I would just read all that for just lots of fun and all the different things that were going on with all that before, it kind of came to be part of my journey. And so I just did so many different things. I did have to interview several doctors to find the right oncologist because not all of them, were open to different things or would agree to different things. And some of them would just dismiss me without doing their research first. And so, of course, that was not a fit for me. And so there were some things. Oh my gosh, no, man. There were some things that the doctor said, okay, cool, I researched it. My agreement with the doctor was, is it positive, negative, or neutral? And when I would ask the questions, and she would give me the feedback in that way, and then I could decide if I was going to do it or not. And so there were some things that I was like, okay, she's right. Like, I'm going a little too far. Like, let me just stop and not do that. And some things that were neutral that I chose to do or not do. And then there were some things that she said no that I still did do. And there was one thing I never asked because I didn't want to know her answer. So I could do it.
Yeah. Is there one thing that you did that you think moved the needle the most, or
No.
you think it was just trying everything and eventually, I think what it was you were talking about the biology of belief. Maybe you were just so determined that you were going to overcome it that you believed that somehow, some way it was going to go away, Do you think that had a big role to play?
I really do. I think that so many things, played the role. At the same time, when I started on the journey, a lot of people say, F cancer and things like that. And I'm not disagreeing with whatever people are saying, like whatever gets you through it, whatever helps you, then that you do that, right? For me, I didn't want to have any type of negative connotation to the situation. So I decided to look for the beauty in cancer. And not, take that opposite approach, if you will. And I never once said I would always say, well, I did one time and I caught myself, I was like, oh, no, take it back.
Yeah.
But I would say things like, I have a diagnosis, or I'm dealing with a diagnosis, things like that. I would never kind of like put it as part of my own self. I didn't want to own that. Yeah. And so I would try to look for the beautiful things in the situation wherever that I could. And things just so extreme as to, dressing up for every single chemo treatment because it would make me feel better and would make me laugh and it would make other people smile. So I was the person that basically covered the infusion center in glitter because I always had some kind of glitter, some kind of crazy wig. I would hang my wigs on my little IV cart, so I'm like walking down the hallway with that. I was a princess, a unicorn, a cheerleader, so many different things and so many different outfits, and mostly children's outfits because I don't know why they get to have all the fun clothes. But I would buy a lot of children's outfits. So some of the funny parts too were that if you look at the front of me, I have this crazy princess dress on. I got this big old wig, and people are like, are you here to greet the kids? No, I'm just here for chemo today, And but if I would turn around, there were many times the back was not zipped because he couldn't zip. So, but I was still going to wear the dress anyway. And so just trying to kind of find the positive and find the silliness and find the happiness and find the joy. In the moments of those difficult times.
I've kind of had to condition myself to be an optimist over the last 5 or 6 years or so. I wasn't always an optimist, but I've gotten to the point now where my first reaction to things is usually pretty positive.
Okay.
But it's it was definitely a work in progress. But I think that's one of the best things I've ever done for myself is kind of catching those initial thoughts are what gets you. Somebody calls them, I think Jim Quick is his name. He's a really smart guy. He calls them ants. Automatic negative thoughts.
Okay.
And as soon as you get an automatic negative thought, you've got to recognize it and then flip it on its head and then basically condition yourself to say the opposite. But that's been something that's worked wonders. I'm a much happier person since proof is in the pudding. It's basically a formula. If you're thinking these negative thoughts on autopilot, you've got to figure out a way to just turn them around and your life is going to be a lot better, so.
That's what I always tell my husband, we can pick two ways, either positive or negative. And the other thing that was something to learn too is that you can forgive yourself and you can choose a new thought. So if you're whatever it is, you can go, oh wait, nope, I don't want to do that. Okay, let's, try to think this way instead. So you can allow yourself that change when you find those moments.
Yeah. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about loans now. So I know there's a couple of different programs you were mentioning to me before we hit play, but I know there's a doctor loan that you've got going on, and there's a couple grants that you wanted to talk about. So I guess let's start with the doctor loan. What's that one about?
Sure. So in some states it's 100% loan, in some states it's a 95% loan. It's for doctors, and it's very helpful for doctors just coming out of residency and starting their career because they don't have, a large down payment.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some concessions, if you will, things that we do differently or underwrite differently than the norm. And one of those examples is the way that we treat student loans more in the borrower's favor versus just using like higher percentages and stuff. So that's a really great loan and opportunity. And then another good thing right now is that FHA actually lowered its PMI, which is going to help you have a lower payment if you're buying a new house.
What's PMI?
Using FHA. Actually, I stand corrected. It's MIP when it's government, and it's just PMI when it's private. So it's actually MIP. But it's private mortgage insurance or mortgage insurance premium. It's something you generally have to pay when you don't put 20% down.
Right. And then PMI for FHA or MIP is for the life of the loan. So you can't really get rid of it. But the good news you were saying is that they did lower the rates for those MIPs, right? For the FHA loans.
So it's lowered for new loans that, move forward basically. So it makes your payment lower than it would have been previously. And most of the time, it is for the life of the loan with FHA, but there are a few different exceptions where it might not be for the life. It might just be for 11 years.
And then if you were to refinance, say, into a conventional loan or maybe some other kind of loan, and you kept or you had 20% equity, I believe it is, right? Then that PMI would cut off at that point, huh?
Yeah, if you wanted to refinance into a conventional loan and you had that 20% equity, then you wouldn't have PMI in that example. That would be one example. And the other thing I wanted to talk about too was a grant that we have for first responders, which would be like teachers, people who work for the city, people who work for the parish, law enforcement, firefighters, EMTs. It's a 4% of the sales price in the form of a forgivable grant that you can use toward down payment and or closing costs.
Nice. So, and if you work with a realtor who's good at negotiating out closing costs, that can basically cover your down payment depending on what kind of loan you get, and you're basically out $0 other than maybe an inspection and an appraisal to get into a house. So that's pretty cool. If you get, say, if you're going for a 3.5% FHA or a 3% conventional loan, that 4%, I guess technically that would even cover the inspection and appraisal too. That would be if they get the whole 4%, right?
Technically, yeah. And then if you can get the seller, depending upon the program, right? If you can get the seller and the seller's allowed to cover all the closing costs for you, then yes, that could be very potential.
Nice. And then, so just out of curiosity, if it was a completely perfect world and closing costs were negotiated out, and then say they had a 3% conventional and they had that 4% grant, could they get money back at closing?
Theoretically, in a perfect world, they could. It's not likely because when you are doing conventional 3% down, the seller's limited to 3% of the sales price toward closing and prepaids, not to exceed actual. And that's typically not going to cover them all.
Right.
So, but in a perfect world, yes, that could theoretically happen. We have had borrowers that got money back at closing. Actually, as recently as a few weeks ago, we had somebody that was with a different loan, not with the grant, not with conventional. So we had more room to play with those percentages. But yes, that's possible.
Nice. I was just curious because that's pretty cool. Yeah,
Cool.
but not to be expected all the time, but
yeah,
it's possible. All right. Any other programs you wanted to talk about, or?
I mean, we have so many. Honestly, the thing is that there's no cost or obligation to get pre-approved. So if you're thinking about it, even if you're like, I don't know if my credit's good enough or not, like you should definitely apply and see. If you are a business owner and you write off things, like we've got 1099 loans, we've got bank statement loans. If you're a doctor, like we said, just out of school and not a lot of down payment, we've got specialty loans for that. Bless you, Remy Grace. We've got DSCR loans for investors. We've got 100% rural development loans, FHA, conventional, jumbo. We've got other grants that are not just for first responders, but that are also for first-time home buyers. Another little tip is if you haven't owned a home in 3 years, you are a first-time home buyer. So you could actually possibly have owned a home in the past and then still qualify for the grant.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so there's just so much out there right now. It's a little bit insane. And really in the scheme of things, people say it's so hard to get a loan. I'm not going to say it's easy. Oh my gosh, that's why I have so much gray hair. But really, when you think about it, the average credit score is a 680 to 700, and you could have potentially as low as a 580 or 600 or 620 and have a job for a year, maybe not even 2 necessarily, and have the seller help you with closing costs, have your get a grant for down payment or a gift for down payment, and still get into a house. I mean, that seems really easy to me, honestly.
Yeah.
It's not like you need great credit. It's not like you need 20% down. It's not like you have to have rental history. Sometimes you do. It's not like you have to have your own down payment. Sometimes you do. It's not like you have to pay your own closing costs. Sometimes you do. So there's just a lot out there, and it's worth investigation.
Yeah. And so don't you have a YouTube channel where you talk about a lot of this stuff, and you've got, I guess, some tips for helping people that maybe aren't able to be approved yet, that can work their way towards getting approved? Because, I mean, like you said, it's no cost and no obligation to go ahead and see if someone was looking to get into a house and was looking to get approved for a mortgage. But if they couldn't, from what I understand, you have some pretty nice YouTube videos. I've seen a couple of them about building your credit and kind of what makes up your credit score. So I learned a few things from that video. But
well, good. Yeah. So under my name, Stephanie Weeks on YouTube, just Stephanie Weeks. I have over 200 videos on mortgage education.
Nice.
Yes.
So a whole course essentially for
Yes.
free on YouTube.
Yes, for free on YouTube. And I actually do have a course for first-time home buyers you could buy as well online at stephanieweeks.com. And then I also have a book called Mortgage Peace, also on mortgages. I promise I'm really not that boring, but and that's on Amazon.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, and so the website was what?
stephanieweeks.com.
I'm gonna put everything in the description, and then I'll also put a link to. Can I do a link to an application or no?
You should be able to.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I can send you that.
I'll put a link to Stephanie's application in the description as well for anyone who is thinking about getting serious about buying a house. But other than that, is there anything else you wanted to cover?
Not that I can think of. I mean, I guess just when it comes to health issues and or home ownership, miracles do happen, and they definitely can happen.
Miracles do happen in real estate. I can tell you that for sure. All right. Hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and that was episode number 8. Peace.